FinTech is a rapidly evolving space. Today, we're bringing together leaders from some of the UK's brightest startups and scale-ups to discuss the major trends and innovations that are shaping the industry today. So I'll let them introduce themselves. Alex, would you like to go first?
Sure, thanks, Dan. Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Considine Tong. I'm a VP product at Access Pay, so I'm responsible for all elements of product development, product management, and product design.
Hey, I'm Justin Seabach. I am the VP of Product and Operations at Volume Payments. Similarly looking across all of our user experiences and everything that we're doing around the engineering and how we're building out our products. Dali?
Hi all, I'm Dali, CTO and co-founder of Boodle. We're an open banking payments fintech, and as the title suggests, I take care of everything tech related. So whether that's back-end, infrastructure, security, front-end. What we specialize in are mainly SaaS products and plugins for e-commerce platforms.
Brilliant, thanks for that, guys. The first question is what kind of impact will AI machine learning be likely to have in the fintech space over the next few years?
It's a great question because this actually came up in a report that we commissioned at Access Pay at back end of 2023. And it probably comes as no surprise to the experts on this call, but AI is a big buzzword and it comes up at the forefront of something people are concerned about, but it's not, or interested in or excited by, but it's not necessarily something that they're yet finding a way to implement. They're finding the use cases that are truly beneficial to them, that are worth the outlay. And at the same time, there is a number of emerging elements with AI around, on both the plus side, using AI to combat fraud and money laundering, but also with fraudsters and money laundering using AI to better their nefarious aims. So I think we're really on a precipice from my perspective between everyone being very exciting and seeing a couple of emerging smaller use cases, but with a lot of potential still to be reached. I don't know if that resonates with you, Justin and Dali.
I completely agree with you, Alex. I think it's still very early days for AI. Where I feel like it can fit in with open banking or payments in general is from an open banking perspective, because you've got two arms, AIS, which is the data side, and then PIS, which is payments. From a data aspect, there's obviously a lot to be done there. I think the key bit that people miss out on is to actually utilize such powerful tech, you need the data first. It doesn't work the other way around. And from a payments perspective, we've seen it with payment gateways and other tools as well. Fraud is a massive thing, as Alex mentioned. If that process can be automated even further, where it's not individuals or humans that are looking at trying to catch the fraud, but essentially machines that can do it, that'll be a massive benefit as well. But I think it'll take a bit of time. I still think people are kind of throwing the term AI around quite loosely without actually understanding what it really is. I think everyone wants to kind of be a part of what's going on at the moment, and it's almost expected of people to somehow utilize AI within their products or their company.
Yeah, I agree completely. So I actually, at one point in my background, I worked as a data scientist, and I think a big thing is understanding what AI or machine learning is good at and what it is not good at, and making sure that you're choosing the right use cases. I've seen lots of companies, hire teams because they want to be participating in this, and then they say, well, can you work on this problem? But it's just not set up well to be solved by that technology, or as Dali said, they just don't have the data to allow them to solve anything in that area. And so, we're on the precipice. I think there are huge upcoming things that are going to be impacted by this area, but it really is going to come down to identifying the right use cases and understanding the limitations, and not just believing that it is this silver bullet that is going to solve every problem that we have today.
Alex, I know that you mentioned there around the applications of AI, potentially negative consequences, kind of unscrupulous actors using it for fraud and things like that. What can companies be doing now to kind of preemptively prevent harm from that kind of thing?
Well, I think there is an element of building on what they have in terms of their operational controls and potentially investing in point solutions that utilize the type of machine learning AI that mirrors some of what we see from fraudsters and money launderers. So looking at sanction solutions, sanction screening solutions, looking at confirmation of pay solutions, looking at payment screening within your flow that, for example, allows you to parameterize your level of risk and identify either behavioral features or financial features of a transaction that might point towards fraud. Those sorts of things can be deployed within your payment workflow and will have an impact. But I think those things have a very important place to play, but they also are not going to be the full solution. You know, there is an ever expanding world of nefarious actors out there, and there is an ever increasing democratization of AI tools like ChatGPT, for example, that we've all seen and probably all used, that mean that not only is AI more accessible to those potentially wanting to cause harm, but it's often, you know, accessible and free. And I think the types of threats that we see will continue to evolve rapidly. That's somewhere where AI can help, because you can use feature identification to understand emerging patterns and trends that can make you think, okay, we saw this thing, we've now identified that post fact as being a nature of an AI driven attack. We can now put controls into our payment screening to reflect those features and flag them when they come through, for example.
And I know that you mentioned a lot of use cases are early stage, in need of further development. Are there any particular areas that you feel are most promising? Anybody? A better way to put it would have like the best kind of impacts from a customer's perspective.
I think from an AIS perspective, the whole gathering data, effectively when a customer connects their bank, you can see the entire banking history up to a certain point, dependent on the bank, to work out spending trends. And just analysis of that, I think, would be quite useful for certain industries as well. You've already seen it with companies like Experian, where you connect your bank and they call it the credit booster, just so they can pull through your spending pattern to see what is it you're actually doing with your money to improve your credit score. I think services like that could potentially be further improved with AI to spot essentially things that don't really align with trends, like those kind of one-off spends more than anything else, which if it's algorithmic, it might be flagged as, oh, this is how the person's spending this month, but they could potentially be away on holiday or anything like that.
Next area that I had in mind was around open banking. Another area, you know, kind of growing rapidly. I think the volume of open banking payments is growing over 100% year on year currently. What kind of impact is that having within the fintech space? What does that mean for the companies, customers, etc.?
I have some ideas, but I went first last time, so I'm happy to hand over to Justin or Dali.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So I think, you know, 100% growth sounds amazing, and it is amazing. I think we're seeing a real like blossoming of that, but we also have to keep in mind that 100% growth on a very small number is still a reasonably small number. So I think last year we saw a peak of just under 6% of payments in the UK being conducted through open banking. So it's still a tiny fraction of you know, that whole payments ecosystem, which is, you know, good and bad. Like you know, it's not huge yet. It's not taken, you know, we haven't taken full advantage of it. Consumers at large are not benefiting from a lot of the things that we could be doing in open banking. But the nice side of that is, because we're starting at such a low point, there's so much opportunity, and there is a lot more that consumers could get, that businesses could get. You know, there's benefits out there that just have not been, like the surface has barely been scraped. I think what I've seen at volume is, you know, a lot of open banking has been pushed by the regulatory side, and, you know, having to adapt to the laws. And so there has been a lack of focus maybe on the user experience side of things. And I think in order to really take open banking to a mainstream position within payments and really to be competing with, let's say, card rails, which are by far the most common way that people are paying today, a real focus on the user experience, helping customers and consumers understand what is open banking. What does it mean when you're saying pay with my bank or pay with my bank app? What does that look like? I think growing the understanding and making it as seamless and intuitive as possible for users is going to be the key to continuing that growth and continuing over the next few years to see that those really high growth numbers and growing it from 6% hopefully to a much larger number.
I think it's Justin spot on with what he said. The growth is brilliant. I welcome it. I'm in open banking, so it's what I want to see. I think the issue is, though, I think a lot of customers who are using open banking aren't familiar with the term, and nor do they know they're performing an open banking transaction. So even though we have this growth, I'm assuming a lot of that is coming from, as Justin mentioned, either something that's governmental like HMRC, where you're paying your tax, or when you're paying off your credit card. So if you're paying off something like an Amex, pay that off via open banking. I think the average individual won't know that's an open banking transaction. They just see it as it's a bank transfer. When we look at something like e-commerce, which is where it really needs to be competing, where it's alongside card payments, other APMs like PayPal, Klarna, stuff like that, you're just not seeing that on checkout. So even though the growth is there, it kind of begs the question, where exactly is this growth? If you were to ask people, have they ever used open banking, would they know they have? You know, they may have paid their credit card off via open banking, but do they know that is the technology that's powering it? I think the missing piece with open banking is really the commercialization. I think the way it's been brought in, it's been brought in with a lot of emphasis on the tech, and the tech is brilliant and it works flawlessly. But I think in terms of selling it as a viable product or a competitor or what we've already got there, that's not really being done that much. It's been given out to obviously API aggregators, and then you've got PSPs who are leveraging it. So you've essentially got a cohort of all these businesses trying to do the same thing, slightly differently, but then you've got others who are doing the same thing. I think it's kind of confusing the customer as well, because then they're attaching brand names to the payment method. I can see a lot more alignment with companies now using the term pay by bank. I think if everyone does something like that, it will make a lot more sense. But if you just have your brand there, if you're trying to be someone like a Klarna, I think it's going to take a lot longer to kind of reach the top of the mountain when it comes to open banking really competing against cards when it comes to payments.
That's really interesting. I have to say, I'm not really close to the personal payments world. Here at Access Pay, we're all about facilitating corporate clients with their banks. So we're about payments integration, facilitating both payments and statements. So we work across the payments landscape, but also around cash management. And so our end users are business users, and they're very aware of open banking, and they've definitely, many of them, very much bought into this dream. And I should say that's not a dream that's unrealistic. And I love the concepts of open banking, and I've seen instances of it being deployed in a way that can really help organizations achieve what they're trying to do, and can help them transform the way they think about their statement retrieval. For example, they can help them think about how they're going to optimize their working capital and their cash as part of a broader payments landscape, for example. But what I would say is that many of the customers I talk to are excited about the possibility, but they can't plug into it themselves. And I think that works very well for Access Pay. That's kind of where we sit is, we work with corporate size organizations who have complex banking and complex interactions with their banks, and they need a centralized platform where they can do many things. And in that environment, open banking absolutely has a part to play. And we do utilize some elements of open banking as part of our cash management product. But what I'd say is it takes, at the moment, real technology expertise to create that integration in a meaningful way.